go to Deputy Kenny, and then we'll go back for answers.
Thanks, Carl. I want to welcome the four gentlemen from the trade unions in Aer Lingus to the committee, and thank them for coming in at such short notice. And I also want to thank you for your presentation, because I think the information you've given us is very valuable in trying to assess what this offer really involved. What we're suffering from is a dearth of information. We're just getting it from the media and picking it up from journalists. Seem to know more about this than the rest of us do. So I think the information you have given is very valuable in that sense, and it was worth. It's certainly worth it. The questions I want to ask, you mentioned there the experience in Iberia when the IAG took over that, and how there was considerable job losses in the administration and back office end, and that it's practically certain that something similar would happen if IAG took over Aer Lingus. And as a North Dublin deputy, a lot of my constituents work at Aer Lingus, and I think you have a legitimate interest in raising their concerns. But the questions I wanted to ask really was about the connectivity and the Heathrow slots, and how important they are. And I think it was mentioned there that I think Mr. Reedy mentioned that that any possible future takeover of Aer Lingus would have to be based on the guarantees about the Heathrow slots. I think do you all agree that the connectivity and the Heathrow slots are absolutely critical? Because if they were lost, you point out that we could lose a lot of foreign direct investment because there wouldn't be direct connectivity with Ireland from the point of view of tourism and investment. You also mentioned there the possibility of the existing slots that are Heathrow to Ireland could be switched to the US or perhaps to China. So I want to know, do you see that as an absolutely critical deal breaker in this situation?
Okay, thanks. If we could get a brief response from
The windfall that's likely to come from this. Who remembers the windfall that the previous government got for the initial public offering of the company? It was €200 million. Where's that gone? What benefit could anyone point at that they got from that? Nothing. You're likely to get north of 300 million this time. That is a drop of ocean in a desert of debt. That is not going to make any significant, and it's not going to replace the one significant thing that this company can deliver to this country. And let's draw a ring around Belfast and its region. Let's draw a ring around Dublin and its region. The people in Belfast would give their right arm to have what we have in Dublin. The inward investment that we get, and the tourism lifts and yields that were announced yesterday by Niles Gibbon of Tourism Ireland. And that's all because of two clever little words: connectivity, and in front of that connectivity there's a word called certainty. If you remove that certainty, you start moving down a downhill slope. And let's remember what happened in Shannon not 10 years ago, when Aer Lingus became an independent company and wasn't controlled, and they removed the Heathrow route from that area. Very quickly afterwards, in an existing inward investment treasure, Dell, they began to think, do we need to be in this place anymore? Have we other options? And that was because the certainty word was removed. Absolutely, Heathrow slots are vital, as Deputy Kenny mentions, for that reason alone. Absolutely, people should weigh up the windfall against what the likely loss is. And I'm saying it's self-evident that that's a no-brainer.
Okay, just, yeah.
Very brief answer, both Deputy Dooley and Deputy Kenny, and thank you for your questions. Deputy Dooley, on the issue of this kind of cash windfall that may come the government's way, I agree with you completely. I mean, the government are a unique shareholder here. They have to look at this from its strategic position. All of the other shareholders are interested in shareholder return and return on their investment. The government have an opportunity here. They're in the driving seat, and they should not drop the ball on this. And from what I've heard from many backbench government deputies, frankly from both parties, we're hearing some positive noises there on that issue. But again, like my colleague Mr. Staunton, I mean, we regret the fact that the previous government took the decision to privatise the airline, because if they hadn't done that, we possibly would not find ourselves in the position we're in today. And I know we disagree on that matter, but so be it. On the issue of the guarantees, Deputy Kenny, we would see this. Our position is, you know, there's a lot of fear out there, there's a lot of concern. We don't want to add to that. We don't want to speculate too much because we are operating with an absence of fact. And the government have an opportunity, and the board of Aer Lingus have an opportunity to get clarity on these issues. And there are macro guarantees around connectivity, the Heathrow slots, the transatlantic routes. But the critical micro guarantee, and we make no apologies for saying this, is to maintain quality, sustainable, direct labour within Aer Lingus. It is a key factor that has contributed to the company's success to date, and it has to be a key issue both for the government, for the business community and the people in the various Chamber of Commerce, both in the Dublin, Cork and Shannon regions as well. So those guarantees are on two levels. Until and unless those guarantees are given and are conceded, really there's nothing to debate. Once and if those guarantees are conceded, then people can make a more informed choice, and we can have a discussion and a debate about whether there should or shouldn't be a takeover or a sell. But until that happens, there's nothing really to discuss, and it should be ruled out.
Okay. Mr. Cullen?
In response to Deputy Dooley, he mentioned that the airline is profitable. It does not require cash. It's growing. But what he admitted from the assets of Aer Lingus, has substantial co-chair agreements already with the Star Alliance, SkyTeam Alliance and the One World Alliance. If, as IAG proposed, because it's in the one of the documents that's published, Aer Lingus was to become a member of the One World Alliance, that membership would then have to increase its return to replace the losses of the Star Alliance and the SkyTeam Alliance. So there would have to be a 300% increase in revenues from co-chairs with One World to justify leaving the Star Alliance and the SkyTeam Alliance. In addition to joining One World, it would require a different model on the airline, because we would have to introduce a two-class service on our short haul, similar to what BA does as well. There is only one sustainable argument for consolidation in the airline industry, and we have to concede that when you go to Airbus or you go to Boeing and you want 40 airplanes, if you're part of a conglomerate that's buying 400 airplanes, you get a better deal. That is a fact. But Aer Lingus has already addressed that fact. Aer Lingus is in substantial agreement with Etihad on purchase and procurement of services. It does not need IAG to help it on its CapEx. It already has in place a strategic partner on CapEx. There is no other reason for an airline that is growing, that is profitable, and is on the trajectory that Aer Lingus is on, with one of the youngest average fleet ages in Europe and the best fuel hedging contract in Europe, not just by a few dollars, but by a country mile. There is no reason for this IAG takeover. Aer Lingus does not need IAG. IAG needs Aer Lingus. That is the fact. All right? And when you come along and you take a CapEx or a capital market value on Aer Lingus of 1.3 million, there will be close to 500 million of free cash on the balance sheet. That brings you down to 800 million. There's a net book value on the fleet of about 650 million, and there is a value on the slots of over 400 million. IAG are 200 million ahead on the share price already offered.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Deputy Kenny did ask another question. I was just answering Deputy Dooley's questions.
Yeah, if you could maybe
just
get to
on the connectivity. Are you saying I've won the on the connectivity, it is absolute. There is no such thing as guarantees that the Irish government can put in place on the connectivity, any more than Ryanair can say to IAG, we'll take your money for the shares, but we also want a guarantee that you won't operate on certain routes, or a guarantee that you will operate on certain routes. And the Irish government is no more than has the same leverage in that discussion than Ryanair or any shareholder. It is a nonsense. It is an absolute nonsense for anybody to suggest that they can put legally binding constraints on the owner when they get their cheque for the shares. It just doesn't happen.
Okay.